Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey.
Mike Madigan runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when. You're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
That song means it's time for our weekly confab with Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. But before we get to him, we want to hear from Governor Pritzker on vax mandates for the kids once FDA gives the green light to vax 5 to 11-year-olds.
Yeah, it's the question you always wanted asked, and I was saying it quite sarcastically, I thought.
Governor Pritzker, if it's such a public health emergency, why not mandate vaccines for all students in Illinois who are eligible?
Well, as you know, there is a process for doing that. That is something that goes through the legislature.
Well, now it gets to go through the legislature.
Right now, that's not been brought forward, but we also haven't had a vaccine for 5 to 11-year-olds that was approved and available. That is now coming available, and in addition to that, there is a 6 months to 5-year-old vaccine that is still in the process within the FDA. We'll hear more about that, I imagine.
But we haven't been going through the legislature lately, so why go through it now?
I'm sorry?
I feel like we haven't been going through the legislature to get other things mandated in the state of Illinois.
No, this is the law in the state of Illinois already, that when we require vaccinations of...
Yeah, it's got to go through the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well,
really.
We went through the process to eliminate the right of conscience, right of healthcare conscience. That's going to his desk. Of course it is. COVID exempt from right of conscience when it comes to healthcare decisions. With respect to the, giving you a process answer to a substantive question, well, I don't care what the General Assembly does or doesn't do. Governor, what is your position? Because if you wanted to move legislation,
he could move it.
Then you would find one of your allies to sponsor it, and it would move the same way you found Robin Gable to sponsor the elimination of the right of conscience for COVID, and it moved. So what is your position on mandatory vaccination of kids, 12 plus, 5 plus, 6 months
6 months
plus?
now. They're going to do in vitro still soon.
What's your position?
He said no legislature has come forward yet to push for that.
In an ideal world, what would you want, Governor? You're the chief executive. What is your position? Forget the legislation. Just what's your position? He doesn't want to be seen as imposing the vax mandate any more than he wanted to be seen as removing the right of conscience on this. So he has, legislative toadies do his bidding for him. Now, I'm all for everything moving through the legislature the General Assembly that should. But here, what his actual position is, but he certainly isn't going to advocate it because of the blowback. Because of the blowback, the unnecessary blowback it would create. And so here again, we have a situation where this is all just about people's personal politics and has very little to do with science or, even more importantly, the well-being of Illinois families, despite the fact that most Illinois families seem to very much enjoy what this governor and this political ruling class is doing. It's rather something to behold.
But I don't think I'm sorry for interrupting, but I don't think there's an appetite out there for parents to get their kids vaccinated, 5 to 11, let alone a 6-month-old to a 5-year-old.
It'll be interesting to see how many people volunteer their kids to do it. That'll be a tell. I don't know. And I'm sure that the politicians would rather have that be their first tell to make sure they're on safe footing if they would turn around and try and impose any mandate Gavin Newsom style. So we'll see. For more on this, pleased to be joined by the aforesaid Ted Dabrowski. Ted, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Ted?
You're right. The public will go along with it. I think it's, the press, the government, Pritzker have done, quote, such a good job of saying these vaccines for kids are needed that most parents will do that. But you referenced earlier in your show this morning that article by Bhattacharya, and the real focus should be on the elderly still. We ran the numbers at Wirepoints yesterday. We looked at all the deaths since July 1st, which is when the Delta came on strong, and 76% of all deaths since then. Right, you're talking about there's 2,500 deaths since July 1st, and almost 2,000 of them have been people older than 60 years old. So we know, still, even with the vaccines, we know who is dying. And what we also know, if you look at the case fatality rates, we know that those elderly people are 1,000 times more likely to die than a kid who's under 20. So if we really wanted to solve our COVID death problem and hospitalization problem, that's where we would go. And yet we're still fooling around with this idea that we've got to vaccinate kids when the total death count throughout the state since COVID started is 27, and virtually all of them had comorbidity. So it's a fool's game we've been playing, but we're going to continue to play it.
Is there any problem that we're actually serious about trying to solve in this city of Chicago or state? Any problem. I can't think of an example of a real problem for which real solutions are being debated or discussed. This is just sort of propagating what I see is just propagating lines of posturing to move poll numbers. That's mainly what I see. Now, there's no arguments being made. There's no evidence being presented. This guy, Pritzker, he hasn't presented any evidence since the beginning of this. It's all just whimsy and look at these authorities I have around me, and they say what I'm saying is right. There's no data distillation. There's no evidence-based arguments being made. There's no problems attempting to be solved. This is, fear-mongering and influence peddling and just propagandizing. That's what we do here. It's not problem solving.
No, there's no problem solving, and you're right. If they ever use data, then most of the things that they do, they wouldn't be able to do. Right. So it's more about the paternalistic. We know best. We're in control. I think a lot of it has to do is the institutions really don't have much credibility now. So the only way to get it done is not with data, not with facts, not with logic, but with just pure, like you said, the fear mongering and the power. So that's what we see, and you're going to see that across everything. It's why Governor Pritzker yesterday called gun violence a public health crisis, because that will allow him to use that same kind of powers he's been using, and the government will use to try to put more controls again.
And it's just a money grab. But they're donating millions of dollars to this new group, this community-based solutions to prevent gun violence, which is under the Department of Public Health. But it's when they signed the bill yesterday, and this is kind of inside baseball, they didn't all sign it and stand behind Pritzker because of COVID. He said we're separating now because of COVID. So there's no rhyme or reason to their logic. And I tried to look into this bill or this legislation that they signed. It just seems like a bunch of gobbledygook.
Yeah, it's always. I think everything has been gobbledygook to Dan's point, and there's nothing new in that. If you look at, here, let me add one more sad part. You look at a couple of these bills that have been passed. There's one that didn't really get any attention, but it got passed. Was this, additional, days of, what do you call them, sick days or leave, administrative leave days for teachers and all kinds of school workers. That thing, lots of Republicans joined in on that. Never mind that it's going to lead to more property taxes.
Sure,
and if you also look at the new electric vehicle or industry, more grants to more corporate welfare. Republicans voted for that too. We can't find a way of differentiating between Republicans and Democrats on some things. On some things we still can, but on others we can't, and that's also mucking up our world here in Illinois.
Okay, Ted, tell us something good happening in Illinois. Maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe your kid made the honor roll or somebody got a trophy for something. Anything good, because, we're always doom and gloom because we're just describing the landscape as it is. So,
it's sad. I'll tell you what's I think what we have to look forward to. It's going to take a while, right? But look, if you look at Youngkin, let's see if he can be successful. We're seeing, so there's going to be pushback against some of this, critical race theory and kind of just the rule of law in our public schools. And then you look at some of the things that are happening in Illinois. we maybe with California are at the extreme of what's happening in America in our schools. With the COVID mandates, with the
curriculum,
environment, with curriculum, all that. And so, and Biden loves that, and that's why he was coming here and sending all his emissaries here, because we are the picture of what they want. Now, if the good news is that a lot of America says, hey, we don't like that, then we have to just keep pointing out that Illinois is, what America can look like if we keep pursuing those same policies, and hopefully there'll be more and more rejection of that, because we need more rejection of the stuff we're doing here. And to the extent that more people see, how extreme we are here in Illinois right now, that's the good news. Sadly, we have to live through the process before we get there. But it's that awakening, that realization that we're extreme here, that might make the pendulum swing back.
Did you get a seat with other members of the Chicago Press Corps on Jelly Belly's flight to Glasgow for that conference? Or are you going to be?
I'm taking a separate jet, my own jet.
Are you?
Oh, right.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta, right. You gotta maintain your currency, right? Everybody, you can't be just hitching a ride. You, as an important person, you have to have your own jet, obviously. Sure.
Yeah. Well, what's fascinating there, he's going to go pitch that we, passed one of the most extreme environmental bills in the country when they passed that a couple months ago. Now he's got this new EV industry support, edge tax credits. We're going to be doling out more money for that. So he's going to be over there pitching, kind of a heaven for that, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, he's doing that, but he should be in Dixmoor, where they have a water drinking problem right now, rather than flying off to Scotland. Don't you think?
Well, that, and
that's
not to mention that.
Ignored.
Yeah, that not to mention that he's going to have to tax everybody to hand out all these tax credits and stuff like that. So that means higher taxes for everybody. So Pritzker gets to choose who the winners and losers are in the corporate world. Corporate welfare. Here you go.
He is Ted Dabrowski.